and welcome back to the channel. I'm very excited to share today's video. We are going to be talking about how to produce your own podcast in less than 30 minutes using AI. So we're going to become our own podcast producers. And this is perfect for you if you have a podcast or if you've wanted to start a podcast, but you are really short on time. Maybe you don't have a lot of tech skills. I'm going to show you exactly what I did to produce my own podcast. And beyond recording the podcast, which takes the most amount of time, actually getting the podcast produced and published takes me less than 30 minutes because I utilize software and AI that's very simple to use and makes my life so much easier. I'll have links for all of the software that I use and all of the tech that I use in the description of this video, so you can check that out, find all the resources that you need. I will give a disclaimer, I am not an expert on using any of these resources, so if you do have tech questions about how to use the specific software and tech, definitely go to their websites to ask those questions. I'm just going to share my process. Now, here's the reason why I decided to use all of these tools to produce my own podcast. Number one, I am both a full-time college lecturer and a business owner with 2 brands. I have a lot going on and I knew I wanted to start a podcast, but I didn't want it to take all of my time. And also, I wanted to get proof of concept to make sure that the podcast would be good, that it would be a hit, that I would enjoy doing it before I outsourced and got a podcast producer, which I do now have a podcast producer for season 2 of the podcast. But I wanted to make sure that I was able to get my podcast up in minimal time. And I can do this in about 30 minutes after recording the episode. So I'm going to walk you through the steps and show you exactly what I do. So first is ideation for the podcast. What am I talking about? So I always like to start with a outline for my podcast, and I don't usually script it out completely because I create both an audio and visual podcast. So I'm typically looking at the camera and I'm not really able to read my outline or read my script. If you have an audio only podcast, go ahead and script it out and read it if you want, if you feel that you can read in a very natural way. But I just create an outline with talking points so that I can quickly look over, remind myself of what I want to talk about on my podcast, and then hit record. So my setup is pretty simple. I just use a camera, a ring light, and I also use QuickTime to record the audio so I get really nice crisp audio and not rely on the camera's audio. So I have a Mac, so I use QuickTime. If you want, you can also use GarageBand if you plan on just editing the audio by itself. I personally edit both the video and the audio at the same time. If you don't have a Mac, I'm sure you know the other tools that you can use to record audio. You could probably just record it on your phone. So once the video and audio is recorded, I actually take the video and audio, put it together inside of iMovie, and I edit the video. I do such minimal edits. I literally just cut out the mistakes. So my editing time probably takes about 15 minutes or so. I can usually see the breaks in time. Or if I do really want to go through the whole episode, it'll take me maybe 1.5 times the amount of time it took to record it. So if it's a 20-minute episode, it'll probably take me like 30 minutes to edit. So once it's edited, I have the video. And then I strip an MP3 from the video because then I use my first AI tech tool, which is called Scribebuddy. So Scribebuddy is awesome. You can literally just drag in your audio and then it turns the audio into a transcript. So next I use a tool called Scribebuddy, and this is where I'm able to drag in the audio file and then it will give me a transcript of the audio file. And what I really like is that this is like a one-time purchase type of product. It gives me a certain allowance of recordings to use every single month. So right now my balance is 7 hours and 30 minutes. And so I still have quite a few hours left of transcription time, which is awesome. And I only do 10 episodes of my podcast per season, so this is more than enough for me. And so what I would do is when you go into Scribebuddy, you go to Start transcription, upload and transcribe, and then just drag the MP. I think you can do a video or a audio. I'm just going to do the audio MP3 in here. All right, so I'm just dragging it in here. And then here you can choose the project. You don't have to. My podcast is called Good Teaching. So I would say this is my project, and then I would click transcribe. And then it does its business. So it has a progress bar where it can show you where it's uploading and the progress it's making. It's updated or it's uploaded. And so now it's in progress. And the thing here is it doesn't really tell you when it's done. So I just refresh when I think it's done, and then it'll show me that it's done. All right, so I've waited for about 5 minutes. I'm going to refresh the page and see if we've made progress here. Yes, okay, it says completed. So for this 23-minute audio, it took about 5 minutes for it to get the transcription for me. And so once I have that, I go in here. It says view transcription results. So I'm going to click to view the results. And here is the transcription. There are a few things wrong, but I'm going to fix that in ChatGPT. All right, so here's all the information I need, and I am going to click to download the transcript. If you do want to add subtitles to your video, you want to download the subtitle file, but I just use download transcript for my purposes. And so then it creates a text file that I will then use and copy and paste into ChatGPT. So if you like to have transcripts for your podcast, this is perfect. What I like to do is to create a blog post that accompanies the podcast episode. And instead of spending my time writing the blog post, I use another tech tool. I go into ChatGPT and turn that transcript into a blog post. This is one of my favorite ways to use ChatGPT because it's my words. I'm not using just random information from the internet. It's pulling exactly from my transcript. All right, so here is my text file. And so I am just going to copy all of this. This is my transcription. And I'm going to paste it into ChatGPT. All right, so here is what my ChatGPT account looks like. I use this, I don't know what to call it. I want to say it's a plugin. I don't really know all the terminology, but it's called AIPRM. And I know when I got it, it was free, and I'm pretty sure there's still a free version. It's where people have created all of these ChatGPT prompts to share with other people. And I learned about this from a YouTube video, which I will link in the description of this video so you can learn more about them and how to sign up. But I'm pretty sure that it is free, and it has all of these different prompts that you could use without having to type all the extra things into ChatGPT. And so I have one that I favorited, and this is the one I use for my podcast. It's called Podcast Episode to Blog Post Outline and Title. And it's great because literally I will just paste in my transcription and it creates a blog post outline for me and a title. And then I can then use that to create my blog post. Okay, so I'm going to click this button. And then down here, it says, okay, I am using the podcast episode to blog outline and title. And then all I need to do is paste my entire podcast transcript here. All right, so I just pasted my podcast episode in here and then send the message to ChatGPT. All right, so let's see what it spit out. All right, so it gives an episode summary. And so I can use that in the show notes and when I promote my episode on social media and things like that. And then it outlines a blog post for me. And so, all right, so here, notice that a few things are not correct, misspellings. I'll fix those. But it gives me some catchy blog article titles that also make good podcast titles as well. And then we got the blog outline, and then there's a note at the end. Copy the entire response above the fingers and paste into the new chat. Why? This is where the blog post comes in. So right above this, it says, use the information above to write a complete and detailed blog post. Include a title, headings, and bullet points. Be creative. conversational, and very descriptive. Elaborate on each of the bullet points with relevant, informative sentences. All right, so I am just going to copy everything above. And then I'm going to paste it back into ChatGPT. Notice that it's not using that plugin. It is just going to be regular ChatGPT stuff. Paste it in. And then let's see what the result looks like. All right, so as we know, ChatGPT can be a bit finicky, so it just basically gave me the same thing, but I'm going to try one more time. Copy all of this. Paste it in. And there we go. We got a blog post. All right, so this looks a little bit more like a blog post. And so now I literally will just copy and paste this into my website. And that is the blog post that goes along with my podcast episode. And then once my blog post is ready to go, then it's time to schedule the podcast live. So I submit my podcast to my RSS feeds to go to Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify. I do that through my website, which is on Squarespace. So I create the blog post for the episode, upload the audio, and I schedule everything to go live on the date that my episode goes live. Okay, so now we are on the back end of my website. I use Squarespace for my website, and in my business, I help professors with creating their own what I call semester-proof business so that they can have a business that's reliably profitable and still teach their classes and not be overwhelmed with all of the amount of things that they need to do. So using their time well to do all of that. So this is the back end of my website. My podcast is called the Good Teaching Podcast. And so I created a blog for Good Teaching where I have all of my blog post episodes. So these are the blog posts based on each of my podcast episodes. And so what I always do is I literally just go in, duplicate the most recent one I created, and then start editing it. So I'll click edit here, and I will remove the text. I usually keep my little promotion of my workshop down there. So I would remove this text. And then I would take what ChatGPT put in here. I usually take out some of the headings, but I will copy. Paste it in here. All right, it always pastes in bold for some reason. No idea why. Bold and italicized. So I will unbold, unitalicize things. And I usually will take out the number system that they do. But basically, it turns into a pretty nice, easy to read blog post. So I take these numbers out and I might restructure a few things, like take this lettering out. All right. And then finally, I will go in here and change out the audio file. So I would click edit, change out the audio file. So I would drag a new audio file in here. And then under podcasting, this is what gets sent to Apple Podcasts and Spotify and Google Play. So I would put the title of the episode here. If there's a subtitle, this summary, that is where I would go back to ChatGPT and find that summary that it created for me, right? And of course, edit things that need to be edited, but typically I don't have to edit too much. Put the summary in there. And then any other notes, I usually will put the summary in here as well as important links that I want my audience to find. All right, let me unbold, unitalicize. Then I come down here, I say exactly which season. I'm now in season 2, and this would be episode. So I have a decision to make. Do I just keep going? I think I keep going. I think I call this episode 11 now. And then I usually leave the rest of this blank. And that's pretty much it. I can change the design of the player on my website, but nothing much more to do. I will go to Canva, change this to episode 11, and then change the title, and then it'll be ready to go pretty much. And so I would go up here to publish, and I would schedule the exact date and time that I want my podcast episode to go live and click schedule. And that is how I produce my own podcast episodes in less than 30 minutes. As I mentioned before, I have now outsourced and I now have a podcast producer. But what is lovely is because I'm able to share what I did with my podcast producer to make their work more efficient and easier for them. And so that transition to hiring someone was actually quite smooth, and I very much appreciate that. As I mentioned, I will put links for tech tutorials, links for all of the software that I used in the description of the video. So hopefully this was helpful. If you're considering starting a podcast, but you're worried that it's going to take so much time to get it up and out into the world, maybe try one or two of these tools to make life so much easier for you. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any comments or any other tools that you use to help you produce your podcast, please do share it in the comments and let's talk about it. All right, have a wonderful day. I will see you in the next video. Bye.